I don't know who that is. So I turned into this. I was 165, I think. Okay, ladies, I thought I'd take a moment to just tell you a little bit about myself. Because I know sometimes people just see the now and they don't know what happened before in my journey and all the struggles that I kind of went through. So that's why I really understand what many of you have gone through. And that's why I passion wholeheartedly to help many women kind of surpass this difficult time in their life. So for me, I have an Italian background with Italian genetics. I think I have some Venezuelan in my grandparents' side of my family, but I was always an overzealous kid. I literally was jumping off swing sets from the time I was 5 years old, and my parents were like, "Oh my God, this kid is crazy." And being European, they were so like simplistic, and here I was like, So from a young age, when I was at the local like YMCA or something, and the instructors had said, you need to put her into like gymnastics or something because she seriously has ADHD and we need to get this energy off. So they signed me up into gymnastics, and I have to say that gymnastics taught me the most work ethic ever. Like I was literally, I think it was like 6 years old and 7 years old, and I was already training, doing 1,000 sit-ups a night by the time I was 7 and 8 years old. And I am so grateful for those days when I was a child going through gymnastics, because it taught me about work ethic, persistence, and stretching and training and those habits that you build throughout your life. And I think those carried throughout me like my whole life. So after gymnastics, like I got into, high school, and I had to make a decision whether to continue on or to stop. And I think my dad kind of made that decision for me, because the coach had said, well, if she wants to go into the national team, she's going to have to quit school. And my European father was like, oh, hell no. So that decision was made. But by that time, although I was really happy that I was in shape and, I could flip around and do all these things, I had to witness a lot of things that 10-year-olds mostly don't witness. And that was, I started to be introduced to body awareness and body shaming. And that coach at that time had told many of the girls that were like 10, including me, when you're 99 pounds, that you're too heavy. And that was the first thing that started in my brain about poor self-image, because I was told I was constantly too heavy. And when I got to 12, my hips were there and I had a curvy butt. And it was starting then that I was like, I am not this rake thin girl that everybody else was. Like, look at me, I'm not blonde, I'm not rake thin. And so for me, it was really difficult because I didn't know how to, and this was in the 80s, remember, in 1980, where I didn't really depict that Farrah Fawcett or Chrissy Snow type of look with models. So I didn't know how to embrace my curves and spent so much of my time body shaming. And I wore a mask on my face for the most part, because throughout high school and even through university, I was really energetic on the outside and very outgoing, but it was just a mask. And I was part of imposter syndrome. And from there, I literally was dying inside. It was like one of the biggest secrets, because I didn't know how to eat. I knew how to train. I would go to the gym and I was so happy. I was like, exercising, and I felt strong, but I had really, really bad, poor body image. And then, I carried that through, was active in volleyball and track, and I was captain of the cheerleading team. But ironically, being captain of the cheerleading team, I remember we had these skirts. And I was like, oh my God, like I remember I'm like, how am I gonna wear this skirt? Everybody's gonna see my hips, and I was squeezing myself. So I got the most oversized cheerleading skirt that it literally went down to like almost my knees. And so when the coach saw me wearing this, they're like, what are you wearing, a kilt? because I was so ashamed of my legs and my butt, and I didn't want anybody to see me. And I'm like, what if they find out that I'm really like this big or this fat? And that's what I thought of myself. So they're like, oh no, you can't, this is supposed to be mid-thigh. You can't wear that. It's going down to your knees. And I'm telling you, I was so stressed I would cry at night, literally cry. And I thought, oh my God, what am I gonna do? But those were the type of the mental conversations that I had. And I always felt like I had this inner battle and inner conflict with myself, because I was never really truly happy and I couldn't embrace my body. And so, that kind of stuck with me. And then that went into dancing as well. Like, I was like, okay, so the next stage of my life, I'm in university now, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? I was active and everything. But throughout all this time and with gymnastics and everything, I was taking dance. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my dance. And I had this real passion. And this is right before like Dancing with the Stars came out. And I'm like, I love ballroom dancing. I used to watch all the competitive, ballroom dancing, and I would envy these girls that had these lean, long legs. And I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't me, but I want to dance. So I started taking ballroom dancing, and I started competing. And at a national level, I was like, I think second in the mambo and third in the cha-cha. But again, the same thing happened. It was such a stress for me, for me to start wearing these outfits where they were going to show my legs, and what about my butt, and oh my God, what's going to happen? My stomach was really never a problem, but it was always my butt and legs, and I started body shaming again. But it was such a big secret that carried for so long, and I had to it took me probably 10 years to untrain my mind to be where I am today. So, I competed in dance and ballroom dancing and all that, and I loved it. And then I got part of a local, national salsa troupe, dance troupe, strictly salsa, and that was fun. Like, we got to tour all across Canada and the US and South America, doing salsa dancing, and it was just phenomenal. Because we performed at the World Salsa Congress in Puerto Rico. At that time, I was also auditioning for various dance videos. I even auditioned for Madonna. Like, that was the most memorable for me. I remember the audition came out. It was an open call for her world tour in New York. And me and my girlfriend on the dance team were like, we only live once. We booked a flight, we went, and it was an open call. I think there was like over 8,000 people auditioning. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I crazy? We waited in line. It was March, so it was cold. We waited in line, I think, over 4 hours. People were lined up, and then they started typecasting. I got in, and boy, I felt like, although I did well, I think I made it to like 3 cuts through. But man, that was crazy, seeing the talent of everyone there and getting that experience to audition for Madonna. Anyways, I had to throw that in there. So let's fast forward again. So now I'm in my, I'm in my 20s, and, I'm still keeping a healthy lifestyle. I got into personal training, and I was dancing. And then in my later 20s, someone approached me in the gym. I was working out, and there was a trainer there, and they said, you really have a good foundation here. You should really compete. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, who are you talking to, me? And he's like, yeah, you have all the elements. Like, you dance, you have a physique, you're toned. And I'm like, not with these thunder thighs. I was literally like, this guy, if he only knew. Here I am again with this talk. Like, they had no idea what was going on with my head, this imposter, right? So he's like, no, seriously, you should really go into fitness. Haven't you seen on ESPN those fitness competitors jumping around on the stage? And I'm like, yeah, but, and I was just like, deep down, I was like, oh my God, because that was a competitive nature that I had. I was like, I would love to do that. But it was, again, oh my God, for me to walk on stage in heels and put this bikini on, impossible. So I shut it down immediately. Next day I go back. He's like, did you think about it? And I was like, and it was bothering me that night. I was really bothered, because it was something I was like, why can't I just get over myself? Like, what is wrong with me? So he asked me again, and I was like, no, it's okay. So he says, oh, are you saying you can't? You can't do it? And I was like, what? And that was like the challenge for me. When someone tells me I can't do something, I have to do it. Like, I gotta do it. So I was like, no, I'm not saying I can't, because I'm gonna do it now. But deep down, I wasn't convinced. What I did was, fast forward, is for that 8 weeks, I literally trained like I was going to compete, but I didn't book and I didn't actually register for the competition. And so I said, you know what, let me just see. At least I'll be on a regimen. I can start learning how to eat properly under his guidance. I can, work out and just give it my all. And that's what I did for 8 weeks. I was under a strict regime, and I can't even tell you how it opened my eyes to eating, and probably was the best thing I did at that time, because I realized at that time, when you think you're eating healthy, you're really not. And so I was literally like flabbergasted at how many errors and mistakes I was making. So I was eating and I was training, and I was like, oh, this is a new goal for me. So 8 week comes around and I'm like, oh my God, my body's changing and I feel great. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like phenomenal. Like, I just couldn't even believe it. So by the 8th week, it was time. And I'm like, 3 days before, I think it was, boom, I put my registration in. And behind the scenes, I was still getting costumes ready and stuff, but I still had that out because I hadn't really registered. So then I competed, and it was like so big. It was in Toronto. It was televised on ESPN and Toronto TSN, like the sports networks. So the media was there, and I do my competition. There was, I think, over 200 girls in my category, and I did this amazing like salsa routine in it. My partner came out, and I mixed in a little salsa mix with my fitness competition and my routine. And next thing you know, I came fourth, and I was like, what happened? And that blossomed into my 25-year plus fitness career, between my competitive career and me helping women. And it just opened my eyes up, and it really instilled my confidence at that time to think, okay, I can really do this. And media started calling in magazines, and I was competing, and it was a really good time for me for many years. And I was fortunate enough that, I was able to use my education, taking courses in personal training and how to eat properly, and use that experience to really help other women with their weight loss goals and mindset and everything else. And, the media was very friendly to me. I even hosted a radio show called Living Beautiful Radio for women out of Florida, and was all about just living beautifully inside and out. One of the best things I love to do. I graced various magazine covers. Here's one here with Optimize, where we did the frontline workers. Here there's paramedics and police officers. This is one of my most proud moments here. For, I think it was CanFit Pro, I graced the magazine cover here. And I was just booming. I was like, oh my God, like, things are great now. And I stuck to this regime. And the problem is, once you get to a high, things go to a low. And slowly my mind started taking over, and I got tired, and I started binge eating again. I started binge eating, and then I was gaining weight for no reason. Like, all of a sudden, things that I was doing before wasn't working anymore. And what happened is then my mind took over, and I'm like, I got to do more. Okay, so instead of like 45 minutes of cardio, I would do an hour of cardio. And then I was doing an hour and a half of cardio, and I still wasn't losing weight. So I was crying and crying. And this is now, we're entering into my mid-30s, and I was at the lowest point in my life. Like, when I say low, depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. And I was just eating and eating and eating. And I would go to the gym, but all of a sudden, this person didn't exist anymore. Sorry, I don't know who that is. So I turned into this. I was 165, I think. Forgive me. I didn't get out of bed. It was a long, almost, I would say 8 months to a year, where I just hated myself. I didn't understand what was happening. I just wanted to eat, and I just thought, oh, it was too good to be real. So from there, I didn't know how to get better. And not to mention now, when I get into the hormonal aspects, aside from me not knowing what to do, because all I knew was to do what I did and nothing was changing and I couldn't stop eating. And I just, when you're down, you get to the point where you don't even know what's wrong with you anymore. So from there, I'm like, okay. Like it was really, I don't even know how I eventually got out of it. I think I was just so sick and tired of being me and tired of my own pity party and tired of like having no direction and no plan every day. So during that time, I was just studying. I was taking classes again, weight loss practitioner courses, studying food, and I just said there has to be a way out. I can't live like this anymore. Like I just can't. I was isolating myself. I was wearing big baggy t-shirts. I didn't want to go anywhere. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I got to snap out of this. But I realized it was more than just weight gain. And the bad thing about competing was I ended up with being hypothyroid because I had overtrained so much that I'd lost my period and I had damaged my thyroid. So that was difficult for me, really difficult. It was an eye-opener, and I'm like, I just want to be healthy. I didn't want to compete anymore. I just wanted to be healthy. So things didn't get better right away. In fact, then it took on to how I was feeling. It wasn't just an aesthetic thing. I felt horrible. My hair started falling out because I was so stressed all the time about food. At the end of the day, it wasn't even about looking good anymore. I just wanted to feel good. I wanted to feel good about myself. And I didn't want to feel like I was handcuffed or imprisoned all the time. And I just wanted to be normal around food. And maybe many of you can feel that. Like I just wanted to be normal around food. And so by that time, I was worse because I was like, premenopausal, and I was so uneducated about this. I was just about food and proteins and, things that were going to make you, fiber, all about just food and working out. So because I didn't have a period for so long, of course, my hormone imbalances started earlier and my hair was falling out. I lost my eyebrows. Like this was before microblading. I had no energy. Like I literally would wake up in the morning feeling like I hadn't slept, and I would run to the coffee. And despite having how many cups of coffee, it was like someone had drugged me stoned. Like I felt like I had this shield of brain fog in my head, and I would have to shake it to try and wake up. People would literally talk to me and I'd be like, I have no idea what you're saying. So, I just thought it was me, and I would have to live sick. Like I was living sick, and that was a hard thing for me too. Like now we're getting into I was embarrassed to have conversations with people. I thought I was getting stupider because my mind was just nuts. But anyways, little did I know these were hormonal imbalances, and they were made worse because I wasn't eating properly. So when I spoke to someone about it and I started educating, and she was about 10 years ahead of me, she goes, you should really get your hormones checked out. And I go, I've been going to the doctor and they're telling me I'm fine. And they're like, nope, that's your first mistake. It's what the doctors don't tell you. And the food that you're eating, you have to do things differently than when you did when you were competing, when you were younger. And that was like the highlight of when all of this kind of new awakening, my aha moment. And that was my next, like me being competitive, at least like, okay, 0 to 100, I went 150%. I'm like, now I have to go down under and research all of this. And that's what I did. I literally was reading books, researching, taking hormone studies, and I dedicated the last 15 years of my life into females, metabolism, studying these things, the metabolic female. I took that certification, as well as the weight loss practitioner, and it teaches you about hormone imbalances and how to eat for your age and how there's a direct correlation between each. So I had only wished that somebody had told me all that stuff then, because it would have saved me a lot of trauma. So I had quickly learned through all of this, and that's why, again, I've passionate so much to help so many of you, because it was like a new brand awakening for me to say, oh my God, like, it's not, if your hormones aren't balanced, then it doesn't matter what you're eating or how you're exercising. Nothing will change. So That is why I have dedicated myself to creating programs for women over 40 and 50 so that we can age up gracefully and we can live better now in the 40s and 50s and 60s, more better than what we did in our 20s and 30s. And I can honestly say right now, I am better now than I have ever been. Like, I think about the train wreck that I was when I was 15 and 20 and 25 and everything I went through. And I'm like, wow. But you know what? It's all these experiences, and that's what you have to tell yourself. That's the whole point of this video. Is I wanted you to know more about me so you could learn more about yourself. It's mindset, it's education, and you grow from these experiences, because had I not gone through all that, I wouldn't have learned or stepped outside my comfort zone or those boundaries for me to learn about, the female body, because we can't do the same things we did when we were 20 and we were 30. There is a solution. We just have to find it, fix it, and practice those new methods. Like, there's so much information at our fingertips, and we don't have to live sick. And although our symptoms are normal, we don't have to live abnormally. So I ask that you train your mind to believe such and to understand that, you can be better every day. And you just have to be consistent and persistent at it. And I'm here to hold your hand, and you have access to me, and you have somebody that understands you in a non-judgmental way, and someone that's going to take this journey with you. Because with you being here in my world, I invest in you just as much as you've invested in me. It's like a little relationship that we have. And so success is key to me. Success that you feel good inside and out, and that you learn and you educate yourself to carry on this education to your lifestyle. So that is a little bit about me. And again, I hope that many of you can relate from my sharing my experiences and my roller coaster of up and downs and my rebound, and how I went from one person to this, and then I went back to this. So we all go through it, but it's just staying consistent and being persistent. And I can give you plans, and I can give you, I can lead you to the water, but I can never force anyone to drink. So if you meet me halfway, I can take you 49%, but I need you to come 51%. So that said, thank you for being part of my world. I look forward, and I wholeheartedly care about so many of you out there, and wanting to see you be the best that you can be, and to really just age up with grace. So anyways, that's everything about me, and I'll see you in the next video.